guys that were just professionals. They just came to work, and they did all the dirty work, and they did anything it took to win, and they knew their role within the team. And I think a lot of that was because they came to Boston, and then because of the players ahead of us had to set the tone, and there was a tradition of winning where the Celtic green was more important than any one individual.
Greer's putting the ball on a play. He gets it out deep, and Havlicek over the fence.
The Celtics were a way of life to me. A group of people so diverse you cannot imagine, working together day in and day out for a common goal. Red's theory was 10 players, 2 baskets, 13,000 people, 1 basketball. And we will decide what is done with that 1 basketball.
During 4 glorious decades, the Boston Celtics set the standard for excellence in the NBA. They are the league's most storied franchise with 16 NBA titles, including an astounding 11 in 13 years. But in their early years, the Celtics struggled for respectability. And in 1950, they would turn to a new coach, Arnold Red Auerbach. He'd instill the team with his fiery spirit, and when it came to finding the players he needed, Red would be both shrewd and lucky.
I had to build up a whole organization because they weren't winning. And then we got Cousy out of a pick of a hat.
Rookie Bob Cousy, a local star from Holy Cross, had been acquired in 1950 by the Chicago Stags.
Chicago went bankrupt. They distributed the players. 3 of us were left. We went into a hat. Boston chose me. I drove down the pike, met for 5 minutes with the owner, said, I want $10,000. He said, how about 9? I said, fine.
Auerbach had found the ideal player to orchestrate his fast-breaking system, and Cousy would electrify the league with his flair and showmanship.
Bob Cousy has dazzled countless fans with his thrilling brand of basketball.
Bob Cousy is the great draw. He was unique. He did things with a basketball that hadn't been done before.
The Celtics' flashy guard was helping the team win games and fans, but Boston always fell short in the playoffs.
Up to that point, we could shoot, we could run, but we just couldn't rebound well enough. And I remember Arnold saying, I got a guy that's going to change all that if we can get him.
Red got his man when he traded for the draft rights to Bill Russell, a shot-blocking center who'd led the University of San Francisco to 2 straight national titles. Russell excelled in rebounding and defense, though his offensive skills were limited.
First conversation we had about me being part of the Celtics is, he says, there are people that say that you can't shoot, and you can't shoot very well, so that you're not going to be able to score in this league. Are you worried about that?
I said, Bill, the name of the game is to win. We're not interested in your points or your stats because your salary is going to be determined by these 2 eyes.
And so there was no pressure because most of the times the guys came in the league, especially with the notoriety that I had, if you don't get 20, 25 points, they say you're a failure.
But Russell's defense ensured that he would be anything but a failure.
He made shot blocking an art because he would psych them that every time they would go to the middle, they'd look, where's Russell?
Russell blocked shots without blocking them because people wouldn't take shots because they were afraid to take. He changed the whole game.
And in 1957, Russell's rookie season, the Celtics would win their first NBA championship.
It's all over. The Boston Celtics are the world champions.
It wasn't just Russell's stellar play that had transformed the team, it was also his fierce will to win.
He was a lion of a competitor who refused to lose. Russell used to become physically ill before every ball game, and if we heard that he wasn't ill that particular night, Red Auerbach would stand up and say, Russ, go into the men's room and throw up. That's how much he gave of himself to win.
I had dedicated myself to try to win every game.
While Russell was the backbone and Auerbach the mastermind, the Celtics would continue adding important pieces to the puzzle. Teaming up with Cousy in the backcourt was sharpshooting guard Bill Sharman, while forward Tommy Heinsohn added to Boston's arsenal with his endless array of shots. Versatile reserve Frank Ramsey brought a new concept to the NBA, the sixth man. Sweet-shooting Sam Jones helped ignite the offense, while K.C. Jones supplied tenacious defense. With everyone playing their role to perfection, the Celtics were dominating the league. And with Russell's defense triggering their fast break, they were revolutionizing the game.
Styles of play have changed too, making for a more aggressive, crowd-pleasing brand of ball. The key to this new style of play is the fast break.
With Russell controlling the backboard, we were in high gear with the up-tempo game, and we were blowing those suckers out of there.
By the early 60s, the Celtics had become the game's reigning dynasty. They would conquer all challengers, including the Los Angeles Lakers, who featured Jerry West, and another of the game's brightest stars, Elgin Baylor. But the Lakers could never defeat Boston in the NBA Finals. Even against the game's most dominant force, Wilt Chamberlain, the Celtics team play would surpass Wilt's individual brilliance, and Boston would celebrate a growing string of titles.
Auerbach is lighting up the cigar, and the buzzer goes off. It's all over. The Boston Celtics are once again the world champions.
It never mattered who made the basket as long as the basket was made. And the only numbers that really matter, at the end of the game, they got a scoreboard. And if your team has got the most points, hey, everything else is cool.
Cousy's got the ball. He throws it straight up in the air. It's all over. And there they go. They've won it again.
And as their winning tradition grew, so did the bond among the Celtics players. They'd become more than just a team, they were a family. And as the patriarch, Red had instilled a strong sense of loyalty.
We had a belief that you were part of this family, playing for the Boston Celtics if you did the job. And it was evidence that you got an extra year or two on your career where other teams would trade you off and try and pick up a draft choice for you. The Celtics never did that. So that you felt secure enough that when they brought in a younger player that you knew obviously was being groomed to take your job over, you would train that guy.
We tried to treat the rookies and the young guys the same way we wanted to be treated.
Throughout the dynasty, younger Celtics would pick up the torch from their aging mentors. Satch Sanders replaced Tom Heinsohn. John Havlicek became the new sixth man. The backcourt of Cousy and Sharman gave way to Sam and K.C. Jones. While players changed, the tradition of pulling together continued, and it was never more apparent than in Game 7 of the 1965 Conference Finals.
We got a 1-point lead, and we our ball out of bounds. I did not trust anybody else to take it out but me. I wanted to take it out because I'd make sure that I could make a good pass.
Now Russell he loses the ball off the support. Russell lost the ball off the support, and the ball goes to Philadelphia.
We go in the huddle, and all I could say was, guys, we got to do something.
Greer's putting the ball on a play. He gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it over to Sam Jones. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over. It's all over.
He had saved us so many times, and we felt so good about what Bill Russell did and how he dealt with us as people that we went out there and tried to get him off the hook.
Bill Russell wants to grab Havlicek. He hooks him. He squeezes John Havlicek.
In 1966, after 8 straight titles, Red Auerbach would retire from the sidelines and name Bill Russell player-coach, making him the league's first African-American coach.
I figured out what better way to motivate Bill Russell, the player, than Bill Russell, the coach.
It's practically impossible to follow Red as a coach. You know, he's got a pretty good record.
But as Russell took the helm, the Celtics were a team in transition, and their long championship reign would finally come to an end. They were toppled in the Eastern Conference Finals by the league's new powerhouse, Wilt Chamberlain and the 76ers.
Well, the Celtics on the brink of defeat for the first time since 1956. Gamely trying, but they did not have it here in the second half.
I can remember that game when we were eliminated, and the Philadelphia fans were chanting, "The Celtics are dead, the Celtics are dead," and they're finally dead.
And it wasn't only Sixer fans who were ready to bury the Celtics. Throughout the league, many wondered whether time had finally caught up with Boston. But the heart of their mystique ran deeper than appearances.
One thing that we've always had in the Celtics is mutual respect. And we think that's the most necessary ingredient for a winning combination.
It's that feeling of supporting and encouraging. You give all you have to your teammate to help him be who he can be. We had that kind of care about each other.
I don't think that when players come to the Celtics initially, they believe all that pride and mystique and that type of thing. But with the Celtics, we always picked each other up.
But in the 1968 playoffs, Boston trailed the Sixers 3-1 in the conference finals. And even Red Auerbach believed that his team was fading into history.
I can remember standing up before that 5th game and looking down at the Celtics practicing. And Auerbach talked about Russell in the past tense. How great he was. I don't want you to forget how good he was, Frank. It was over as far as they were concerned. And they went out and they won that game. They went back to Boston and they won there, and Russell came back. And in the final game, the 7th game, Wilt didn't take a shot in like the last half of the game. It just began to crumble.
Boston would go on to win its 10th title. But as the 60s came to a close, it seemed that the curtain was also coming down on the Celtic Dynasty. By 1969, Bill Russell was the only player remaining from the first championship team. Aging and injured, the Celtics limped to the worst record of Russell's career.
They were even then being referred to as the old Celtics, but this were the ancient old Celtics. At that point in time, Russell was 36. They finished 4th in the regular season. They were going to be giving up the home court in each of the 3 rounds. There was no thought in anyone's mind they would get by the first opponent.
Yet the Celtics did manage to outfox the talented Sixers in the first round and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Once again, they'd have the role of underdogs against the up-and-coming New York Knicks, a team confident it was ready to overtake Boston. But the Celtics would draw upon their fierce pride once more as they'd run past their younger rivals and earn one more trip to the NBA Finals. There they would meet the powerful Lakers, who had engineered a stunning trade for Wilt Chamberlain. It seemed that LA had all the pieces in place to finally defeat the Celtics and to win the championship.
With guys like Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, I feel very, very happy that I'm being traded to a team that I believe may stand a chance to go down the record as one of the best teams in basketball ever.
With West, Baylor, and Chamberlain, the Lakers had the top 3 scorers in playoff history. They'd take a 2-1 lead and seemed in firm control of the series. Yet the Celtics would tie it with some vintage heroics.
The outside now to Sam Jones is good!
Though the Celtics would force a 7th game in Los Angeles, they still faced doubts.
I can't help but wonder, how do you feel about going into another 7th game, this time on somebody else's floor?
We've done it before.
Despite Boston's quiet resolve, the Lakers remained confident, and it seemed that their time to celebrate was finally at hand.
We get back out for the last game. Jack Kent Cooke was the owner of the Lakers. He put out a sheet in all the seats. When the Lakers win the championship, the USC band would play Happy Days Are Here Again. The balloons in the rafters would fall down, and Chick Hearns would interview Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, and Wilt Chamberlain in that particular order. Well, I took this back to Russell.
When the players came in, I read it to all of them. I says, there are a lot of things that's going on, but one thing that cannot go on, the Lakers cannot beat us. It's not something that can happen. They can't beat us. But it's going to be fun to watch them get those balloons out one at a time.
Don Nelson made a shot that I've never seen in all the years of basketball. It hit the rim, and it must have gone up 15 feet and came right back down through the net. I mean, it was absolutely extraordinary. There was something about the Celtics that made it that they had to win. They willed themselves to victory that time. And then Russell walked off into the sunset.
And the Celtics, they have done it again. A spectacular finish.
Chris, I'm here with Bill Russell. Bill, this must have been a great win for you.
Exactly.
I know it's hard to say what's in your mind right now, Bill, and it must have been a great win.
Well, this is such a great bunch of guys, you know, and it's just been so fabulous the way they played for me. And it sounds all corny, you know, to start talking like that, but I told these guys before the game, I don't care what happens, I wouldn't trade you guys for any guys in the world.
The Celtics at one time may have been the oldest basketball team going and winning. Today they are the youngest, and unless you've seen them a couple of times, I think you'll need a program to know who's on the floor.
As the 60s drew to a close, the Celtics had won 11 championships in 13 years. But they had lost two legends to retirement, Bill Russell and Sam Jones. It was time to rebuild.
We lost in one fell swoop, Mr. Defense and Mr. Offense of the Boston Celtics. And I was charged with trying to build a team without Bill Russell and Sam Jones.
And General Manager Red Auerbach knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy.
When you have a young ball club, they're going to make a lot of rookie mistakes.
I went from being the youngest guy on the Celtics to the oldest guy in 1 year. So there was a complete turnaround.
I came in '69. So I was pretty much in awe coming to an organization with all this history. And now it seems as though these shoes now we have to fill.
Though JoJo White, Don Nelson, and John Havlicek kept Boston competitive, the 1970 Celtics would win only 34 games and fail to make the playoffs. Auerbach's greatest challenge was replacing Bill Russell, the team's spiritual leader. But when he drafted an undersized center from Florida State named Dave Cowens, few saw him as a worthy successor to Russell.
When the Celtics drafted me, people up there were going, Cowens, who's Dave Cowens? People didn't know what to expect.
But they would soon find out.
When he was a rookie, there was a time where I just owned him. You know, we'd play one-on-one in the gym, and he couldn't beat me. And a month later, I couldn't beat him. He had more determination than anybody that I've ever played with.
Somehow, Red had found another model Celtic.
There isn't a Celtic that would do anything more than Cowens to win. I mean, he was a guy that was as tough as anyone could be.
Dave Cowens had a ferocity about him that he brought to the game that intimidated people.
My forte was rebounding, defense, trying to be as good a team player as I possibly can, a great teammate.
Boston had found its new center and leader, as well as the perfect coach to carry on the Celtic tradition.
Tommy Heinsohn was an old Celtic himself and did the exact same things that Red did, ran the same plays.
What I believed in, the philosophy of Red Auerbach, was to use quickness, speed, and stamina to beat your opponent. Size is only important 10 feet from the basket.
And just as the Celtics of old used Russell to trigger their trademark fast break, the new Celtics of the 70s would use Cowens, who wouldn't only start the break, but also finish it.
Boy, that's something for a big man to be able to break down the floor and do that.
Cowens utilized the speed. We'd look for him on the fast break.
Cowens was a new breed of center, one who could outrace bigger defenders on the break or hit the outside shot. While revolutionizing his position, he was reviving the Celtics, but he wasn't doing it alone. Paul Silas would control the boards, helping to fuel Boston's running game, while JoJo White provided deadly shooting, and John Havlicek was a man in constant motion.
He inspired our whole team with his work ethic. He was a tireless and top condition type player.
Not many athletes in any sport who in one game
will log 8 miles running, as Havlicek did. He would work from baseline to baseline. He epitomized what the Boston Celtics were all about.
In 1973, the Celtics would win a franchise record 68 games. And the following season, they'd return to the NBA Finals, where they would face the Milwaukee Bucks, featuring the great Oscar Robertson and the league's reigning MVP, 7'2" Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. In many ways, the matchup in the middle would become a defining image, not just of the series, but of the determination of Dave Cowens.
It was a David and Goliath thing going on with Cowens going up against Kareem. He was giving away, 6-8 inches.
From the beginning, the series would be an epic confrontation, with neither team giving an inch and some of the game's premier players showcasing their greatness. But ultimately, the most enduring moments would be provided by the two centers.
What a play by Dave Cowens!
With Boston just seconds away from the title in Game 6, Kareem would have his moment when he rescued the Bucks with his famed skyhook.
Kareem with a big pressure shot. Milwaukee wins it. Milwaukee wins it in double overtime.
The series shifted back to Milwaukee for the 7th and deciding game. But while the Bucks had home court advantage, Heinsohn and the Celtics had a plan, one born from years of experience.
What you want to do in the 7th game, and I was in a lot of games like that, take the crowd out of the game as quickly as possible. I elected at that point to double Kareem. We took the ball out of Kareem's hands.
And it would work. Boston would frustrate the Bucks and then run past them to capture the series. The new Celtics had launched a new championship era, winning the 12th title in franchise history. 2 years later, the Celtics would return to the finals, this time against the Phoenix Suns. And it would become one of the most memorable finals ever in the NBA. With the series tied at 2, the pivotal 5th game would turn into a heart-stopping classic. With Boston trailing by a point in the final seconds of double overtime, the Celtics would turn to veteran John Havlicek to save them.
Havlicek, he's coming around to the left. The shot is good! The shot is good, and that's it! The ball game's over! The shot is good!
We were actually in the locker room thinking we had won it.
The ball went in with 2 seconds to go, and the clock has to stop on a made basket.
I cut off my tape, and they came in the locker room and told us it was still seconds left on the clock.
But while the teams would return to the court, the game's finish seemed to be a mere formality, as Boston had a 2-point lead with just 1 second left to play.
Won't start until it's touched. They'll have to throw it up. Garherd, turnaround, shot in the air. It's good. It's tied again.
Garherd's miracle shot might have crushed many teams, but for the Celtics, it was just another call to arms.
The thing about our ball club at that time, we never quit. We always found a way to get it done.
And they would find a way yet again, but with the unlikeliest of heroes. With Dave Cowens having fouled out, little-used Glenn McDonald would earn his place in Celtic lore.
It's going to be all over. And look at the fans here in the Boston Garden.
Boston would go on to its 13th championship, but for the Celtics of the 70s, their legacy wasn't just the titles they won. It was their pride and teamwork that reflected the best of the Celtic tradition.
That's when things kind of get spiritual, because people start getting into someone else's head, and because they're always thinking about them and caring about them and trying to perform for them. And then the power of everyone is in one person. And that only happens when you care about each other as individuals.
After returning to glory in the mid-70s, the Celtics would once again begin to decline. Many of their mainstays departed. Some were traded. Others said goodbye to the game forever. And even the strong-willed Dave Cowens lost his desire to play. He would briefly leave the team in the 77 season.
He just didn't feel like we had the old Celtics, the old Celtic spirit, the old Celtic tradition, so he just wanted to get away for a while.
And the changes showed on the court. The perfect Celtics were leaving, while the wrong ones were coming in. New additions Sidney Wicks and Curtis Rowe were the opposite of all the team had stood for.
Wicks and Rowe came to symbolize this terrible time in Boston sports. Selfish ball players who wanted the rock, wanted touches, weren't worried about winning. I think one of them had the quote, "The W's and L's don't show up in my paycheck."
The downward spiral continued when the team's ownership dealt 3 first-round draft picks for Bob McAdoo.
They had an ownership situation where John Y. Brown bought the team and traded away all the future that Red Auerbach had carefully managed to acquire in trades.
As he watched what he had built being torn apart, the Celtics patriarch was even ready to do the unthinkable.
Red was on his way to the airport to accept a job with the Knicks, and you had no hope for this team.
But hope was renewed when Brown sold the team and Red agreed to stay on. In the past, he had boldly pursued players who would be ideal Celtics, and now he had identified a new savior. In 1978, Red drafted Indiana State junior Larry Bird, even though Bird had decided to stay in school for his senior year.
It was odd that they drafted a player that they couldn't have right away, and it was more frustration for the fans to have to wait a year.
And there were many who wondered whether Bird would be worth the wait.
White guy, Indiana State, can't jump, can't run.
He was not fast, he was not quick. I was Larry Bird's biggest skeptic.
But in his senior year, Bird began to convince the doubters. He would single-handedly lead the unknown Sycamores to the NCAA Finals.
It's destiny for these guys.
Once people saw him play, there were no doubts. We were watching Indiana State games here in Boston. Local TV made sure that they got their games because the Celtics were so bad, and he began to embody and represent hope.
Finally, Red's vision would become reality when Bird became a Celtic.
Everything's starting to fall into place. I hope you all realize this. We got Larry, 1 or 2 little moves, and we're ready to go.
The first game, I just remember so vividly, they announced Larry Bird's name, and somebody from one of the top tiers threw out a dove, and it flew around the building.
Yes. Oh, that was incredible. Yes, it flew across the garden, and the place erupted. That was unbelievable. This was the unleashing of Larry Bird.
And Bird would pay immediate dividends.
Celtics have got 3 seconds. 2. Bird, a runner. It's good! Yes, indeed!
No one was questioning Red's move any longer. In Larry Bird, he had found all the qualities of Celtic greatness, embodied in one player, a player who combined talent with tenacity.
He'd dive on the floor. He'd do whatever it takes.
Look out, Bird's in the crowd trying to get a loose ball back, and by golly, he does it.
He was the most self-motivated player I ever saw.
Bird had revitalized not only the franchise, but also its fans.
They're hot, they're selling out, they're winning, and it really feels like the old days now. And for Red, this is a crowning achievement. You know, he's got his kind of team back again now.
But Red wasn't through. With one move, he would pull off one of the biggest steals ever in the NBA, acquiring center Robert Parrish and rookie forward Kevin McHale. The Celtics now had the right pieces and just the right player to utilize them.
Larry's going to slow it up. Ahead to McHale. Save that one, guys.
I liked it when everybody was involved. You know, whether I scored 10 points or 20 points or 50 points, I liked it when the ball was moving.
Advantage, Bird on the drive. Look at that pass. Oh, what a show.
Great play. Guys would say, well, how are we going to stop Larry Bird? See, that's what Larry Bird wanted you to feel. Okay, the focus would be on him, and he would get other people, his teammates, into the game.
Everybody stopped taking the first shot that came to him, and we started looking for secondary and third passes.
We were running the floor, dropping passes off left and right, and we were running up and down and scoring, and it was so much fun.
Everybody on the team was looking for that teammate to get that easy basket, and that translated into harder play. Guys played a lot harder. They wanted to win. They wanted to be a part of it, and it kept everybody involved.
In 1981, Bird would lead the resurgent Celtics into the playoffs, where they looked to renew the team's championship tradition. But it seemed those hopes would be dashed by Dr. J and the 76ers. Philadelphia took a commanding 3-1 lead over Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. However, the Celtics would stage one of the most dramatic comebacks ever in the NBA playoffs. They'd claw their way back into the series and force a deciding Game 7. And just as he had done all season long, it was Larry Bird who would deliver the knockout blow.
Stop and pop off the glass. It's gone.
One thing I remember most about that series is every game we just fought back and kept battling and finally found a way to win.
Bobby Jones is going to put the ball in play. And the pass hits the top of the backboard. And it's over. They won 3 in a row. They came from 3 above now. And they have won the series. It's all over.
After we won that series, we was in the NBA Finals, and there's no way we was going to lose it after going through a grueling 7-game series with Philadelphia.
There's Bird again. Larry Bird with a steal. Anderson back to Bird.
With Bird at his spectacular best, the Celtics would overwhelm the Rockets and add a new chapter to the team's storied history.
It's all over. The Boston Celtics have won the World Championship in 1981. And they have become the 14th flag winners for the Boston Garden.
Once you're a Celtic and once you're there and once you win a championship underneath them, you feel a part of it. If you won a championship there, you're part of the family.
After Boston captured the 1981 title, there were high expectations of a new dynasty in the making. But in '82, the Celtics lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the following season they would suffer an embarrassing 4-game sweep at the hands of the Milwaukee Bucks.
The Boston Celtics have finished their season.
Boston had drastically underachieved, and Bird would take the defeat personally.
You go through the season, you play hard, and you get in the playoffs, and you try to do the best you possibly can, but I just say that this series I didn't play up to my standards.
Heading into a long off-season, the challenge facing the Celtics was to get the most out of their talent. And as their leader, Bird was determined to set the example.
He made a vow. He said, I'm coming back and I'm going to be better than I've ever been.
Bird would rededicate himself to the game, and the tireless work ethic he'd always displayed now became legendary.
He'd always make sure everybody leave before he left. And then you'd be in there 2 hours, Larry, be still down there shooting. Well, he beat me this time because I got things to do. I got another life. But it was incredible, the focus that he had in practice and all. And when it came time for the game, you knew he was ready.
To their advantage, Bird on the drive, slapped away by Vincent. Bird gets it back. Saves it. Nice pass to Maxwell. What a play.
Kellogg shoots and is short with it and hard. And the rebound to Bird.
That's pass work. That's teamwork.
Bird's new attitude ignited his teammates as well, who began to share his passion. From the start of the 1984 season, Boston attacked every opponent relentlessly.
If your superstar is so willing to sacrifice things and to play to win, then everybody else will follow suit.
With Bird setting the tone and elevating the play of his teammates, the Celtics roared to the league's best record.
On the cut, McHale. One great play after another, and this place is wild.
The story of the postseason would be no different as the Celtics steamrolled through the early rounds of the playoffs, while out west, Magic Johnson and the Lakers were doing the same.
Magic is straight down the middle. Still going, still going.
In their only previous meeting in college, Bird had been left with haunting memories of Magic celebrating the national championship. In the NBA, each had revived the fortunes of its franchise, but never had they met in the NBA Finals.
That one of them was the urban black kid from Michigan, and the other one was the manure-kicking country boy from Indiana, and one of them with the Lakers, and one of them with the Celtics. I mean, that was perfect. That's central casting.
And the entire country seemed to be buzzing with anticipation.
oh, this was hype, this was big, this was as big as it got. And it was the West Coast against the East Coast. It was Showtime against the hard-working eastern city of Boston. I mean, it was everything. They had everything.
They won the East, we won the West. So it's like everybody just get ready, sit back, and let's enjoy it.
As the game's two brightest stars met once again, Bird would finally have the opportunity to earn his revenge. But instead it was the Lakers who would race off with Game 1.
And they are running the Celtics off the Boston Garden court.
After seizing home court advantage, the Lakers were off to another fast start in Game 2. Boston kept it close but still trailed by 2 in the closing seconds. LA had the ball and it seemed control of the series.
They were about to go down 2 and losing both games at home. It was hopeless.
Now to Magic. Back over to Worthy, and it's picked off. Goes to Hammonds, and he lays it off and in. It's all tied up. A great play by Henderson.
Gerald Henderson's heroics would send the game into overtime, and the Celtics would steal Game 2 from the Lakers.
For a minute there, I could hear Johnny Moose going, Henderson steals the ball.
Following their dramatic victory, the Celtics looked to carry their momentum to Los Angeles for Game 3. Instead, the Lakers would run them right off the court, handing Boston a humiliating 33-point defeat.
This has to be one of the most decisive routes in championship game history.
With Magic celebrating at his expense, the normally private Bird made his feelings public.
You know, we got some great players on this team, but we don't have the players with the heart sometimes that we need. And today, when you see Magic slapping high fives and guys going behind their back and shooting layups on us all day long, it seems that somebody would try to put a stop to it. And until we get our hearts where they belong, we're in trouble.
Headlines the next day was Celtics play like sissies, because like what Larry said. And it was like the most incredible thing, because we saw that article and it was like we couldn't wait to get back.
Here's Kareem, outlet to Worthy, Rambit. And you knew this was going to happen. You could see it coming.
I was the leader of the Boston Celtics, and I knew that. My teammates knew that. So they was looking for direction, and that's what I tried to give them.
Answering their leader's challenge, the Celtics would fight desperately for every possession, turning Game 4 into a grueling struggle. The teams would battle their way into overtime, and with the game on the line, it would come down to Bird against Magic.
Goes right into the pivot. Now DJ holds the ball. Back in the Bird. The ball away is gone. Oh, my goodness!
And the Boston Celtics have evened this NBA World Championship Series at 2 games apiece. That's right, we're coming back. We'll be back.
What Larry had said had hit the core, or hit the heart of us.
The Celtics' pride had been restored, and it would carry them through the rest of the series.
Here's Magic off the mark. Lakers had several chances, and here's Larry Bird chucking down the court.
In the 7th game, the Celtics would finally capture this classic series. The season had begun as a personal mission for Larry Bird, but his determination had inspired the entire team, and Boston would reclaim the title thanks to a legend in the making.
The Boston Celtics are the NBA World Champions.
I told Larry Bird, the way you played in that series, the way you conducted yourself and the way you played made me proud to be a Celtic.
You know how it feels because you've been here before. Me, I haven't scored a point. You know?
But you kind of brought the guys here that scored the points.
Well,
So you're overpaid.
In 1985, Larry Bird would win the second of his 3 consecutive MVP awards. He wasn't only the game's best player, but also its greatest clutch performer.
DJ again to make the inbound pass. The double team and Bird. Larry, fake, fall away. Hits it! Unbelievable.
It's like Robert Parrish always said, there's 40,000 eyes on Larry Bird because they knew he was going to get the ball. And we knew it, our opponents knew it, now it's just up to them to stop it.
All right, here's Dennis. Gets it into Bird. Larry, a runner. Got it! Ball game's over. Boston wins.
With Bird at his peak, the Celtics compiled the league's best record, though they would fall to the Lakers in the finals. But by 1986, they'd bolstered their supporting cast, and became an even more cohesive unit.
Everyone knew what their roles were, and they lived it that way. They knew what was going to happen from play to play. They ran very few plays. You had simple plays being run by complex people.
That's the Boston Celtics.
It was a team that could beat you anyway. It could beat you in a fast-paced game, in a slowdown game. It could beat you with its passing. It could beat you with its mind. It could beat you with its strength. And the versatility, the interchangeability of all the parts made it virtually an unstoppable team.
That is basketball, not the 5 best players, the 5 players that play the best together.
Bird just hit him with a screen, then gets it back to the head.
The most fun part of basketball is when you come together as a group and that you think collectively, you flow as one up and down, and you become a single entity. That's Boston Celtic basketball. That's what we live for.
With the addition of former MVP Bill Walton, Boston would win a league-best 67 games, including a 40-1 record at home. With a victory in the finals over Houston, they would take their place as one of the greatest teams of all time, a collection of talent that had come together as one.
I think we all helped each other so much, and playing together, I don't know if any of us would have reached the team goals that we reached. You might have had more individual goals, but what does that mean? At the end of the day, that means nothing. What means something at the end of the day when you stand at the championship trophy and you raise your hands to the sky and say, yeah, we're the best team in the world.
Birds carries out the game plan, and the Rockets want to know what hit them.
I think that was, the single greatest team that ever played. I'd put them up against anybody with the future of Western civilization on the line.
Bird goes in a three-point land. Oh, that's a three-point. He makes it a 28-point lead.
I learned years ago from John Wooden that a life not lived for others is not a life. That a game not played for others is not a game. We can all truly sit back from that 86 team and look around that locker room and say, you know what? We were more concerned about each other than we were about ourselves.
16 out of 40, the greatest winning tradition. You did it with hard work and teamwork. You've earned it. It's yours. Enjoy it.
After winning the 1986 championship, the Celtics would only return to the finals one more time the rest of the 80s and fall short of the title. As the decade wore on, age and injuries would begin to take their toll. The passage of time would diminish their brilliance, but not their legacy or their famed Celtic pride.
The fact that they had been through these wars more often, they had been battle tested, that allowed them to have those kind of moments.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right at 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the inbounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up and in. Oh my, this place is going crazy.
It was meaningful basketball. It was meaningful to them, and they played it that way.
Johnson gets it into Bird, and Wilkins is there. Bird comes free. Bird for the layup. You are watching what greatness is all about.
You did have a sense that you were playing for a special team at a special time. It was so much fun. It's really what everybody, if they're a player, should be able to do it once in their life.
This might be the season for the Celtics. McHale come out of there with it. Got it! McHale hit the three-point basket.
These guys gave you what they had from within. You didn't walk away saying, if they'd have tried a little harder, I think things might have been different. And as a fan, as an observer, that's all you can ask for. They gave you what they had. And the fact that these were great players, great competitors, what they had was a lot.
Celtic pride started with Red Auerbach, Bob Cousy, came to full fruition with Bill Russell, Havlicek, Dave Cowens, JoJo White, and then stayed forever. We knew it was something that was left on that floor, from the sweat, the blood, the tears, but also the championship celebrations. One day at the end, Red Auerbach would light up that cigar and say, "Thanks, guys. You are truly Celtics."
Red goes to Tiny. Tiny. Into Gene Conley. Over to Losky. Don't take a charge, Losky. Over to Easy Ed. Easy Ed to Walton. Walton to Bailey Howell. Bailey Howell to Frank. Charlie Scott. DJ in the middle. ML. Don Nelson. JoJo. Over to Max. Down to Sam. Tommy Heinsohn. No, Tommy. Bill Sharman. He passes it up into Satch. Satch to Coos. Coos goes behind his back to Bill Russell. Russell to Havlicek. He stole the ball. No, he can't steal the ball. Get back there. Into Larry. There you have it.
I dedicated my life to basketball, and I dedicated my life to the Boston Celtics. I dedicated my life to the fans of Boston. See, I'm a proud individual anyway, but I'm also proud to be playing for the best organization that was ever assembled. And thank you, Red Auerbach. Thank you so much.
All I've heard recently is how you're going to replace Bob. That's my answer. Can't be done because that's Mr. Basketball.
I don't think that when players come to the Celtics initially, they believe all that pride, mystique and that type of thing. But once you become a member of the team and have success and you retire, then you say, I was part of that. That's something special.
On this final day, there's only 24 minutes left. And it's going to be a journey that will end because I cannot turn back the clock.
The time I spent in the locker room and on the floor with my teammates was a marvelous, wonderful time for me. From there, I couldn't go to heaven because leaving there, going anyplace else was a step down.